On the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, the spot where the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven, built on top of a site sacred to Judaism. Else, the glowing ball of light dropping until it hangs just over the dome of the rock.
Whoa! Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
Now I am become Death, Destroyer of Worlds.
In my association with Project Blue, they definitely withheld information.
The whole fleet of them, look on the ASA. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots to the west.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Do you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs?
Absolutely.
Well, all right, guys, welcome back to Total Disclosure Live. Listen, the breaks, or something, I don't know, the UFO gods, if you want to call them that, have not aligned tonight. So neither of the women that were supposed to be here are here, and I don't. So Anjali, unfortunately, I'm gonna turn the light on in a second, but Anjali did not know that the show was going to be live. So she asked to pre-record it. And I was like, okay, that's fine. We could do that another day. Yet Teresa and I are still going to do the news tonight. And now Teresa is nowhere to be found. And I'm wondering, is it this cell service thing? You guys been hearing about this cellular service malfunction that's been going around? I have T-Mobile, so I wasn't affected. So I don't know if anyone else, any of you guys were affected. But you know what it did get me thinking about is, and I guess, I mean, I'm just going to go, I'm going to riff. I'm going to riff for about as long as I can. As long as I can, we'll go, until someone shows up, if someone shows up. But if not, then whatever. But it got me thinking about these CMEs, so these coronal mass ejections, and what they could do to our technology, and what they could do to us overnight. So CME is a coronal mass ejection, so a solar flare. And when solar flares happen, it's basically like the sun burps out the worst of the worst, and you know it's electromagnetic, and it disrupts the electromagnetic field, and a lot of our digital devices obviously run on that kind of infrastructure. So it has been in the talks, especially lately, about these solar flares, and could they send us back to a 1990s setting where technology is really analog and very wired. Even that infrastructure would go down for a little bit. So it just makes me wonder. I mean, we saw how how people were panicking that they didn't have their cell phone. They had their Wi-Fi, but they didn't have their cell phone. So I don't really know what was going on. I haven't really looked too far into it. Let me turn this light on real quick. I'll play a little Crash or Trio skit while I do that because I feel like I'm in the dark. I love that skit, man. I really do. I love that thing. But so while I'm waiting, I do want to talk about. So I did on Halloween. I started filming. Well, for a long time. I'm going to tell you guys a story. Since we have the time. I do want to kind of mix it in. We do have a new sponsor for the show, Identia Herbals, and I really highly suggest that people look up the brand. I'll put it in the description below as well. But it's an all natural supplement that I've been taking. It promotes it's like biomed. It promotes neuron health and brain activity, and it's just it's all good ingredients like lion's mane, performance mushroom, stuff like that. So it's been I've been taking it for the past couple, I'd say 3 weeks now, and my oh my, has it really changed my perspective, but memories that have been lost to me or repressed in my certain case, memories that were repressed have just all come flooding back to me in the past 2 or 3 weeks, and it's been overwhelming. Not to mention having two family members pass away in that same amount of time, which I mean, it sucks. It really does. But it's weird. It's I've got this clarity that I haven't had. So I started this movie and I didn't think it was gonna be much, but it started off with a road. Now I'm gonna tell you guys the haunting of Dudley Road. Now, my grandfather would tell this story while we were growing up. He would tell it at Thanksgiving, and we'd hear it other places in Billerica while I grew up. There's this road, and it's really, really weird. It's this really weird road, and it has a nunnery on it, and a long time ago, back when the witch stuff was going on, the mass hysteria of people being accused of witches was going on. Um, some bad stuff happened in Billerica. Billerica was a lot more central. It's a lot bigger than it is now. It's still a big small town. It's verges on the city every year. They vote on it, but it's a big town. Borders two big cities, and I mean it's a city in itself. But nonetheless, this road is in a part of Billerica, but it also merges into Bedford. So that's where kind of the disconnect happens. But at one time, before Bedford took over that area, that was all Billerica. So Dudley Road used to be fully on Billerica. Now it's split between two towns. So it's kind of hard to kind of gauge the historical societies and try to figure out where all the information lies. And that'll make more sense in maybe in a few minutes. But all my life I've wondered, is the legend true? And the legend is that nuns from the nunnery that's on Dudley Road, which is there today. There is a nunnery still there today. It's been rebuilt. It's been repurposed. It's now more of a retreat for nuns. But it was if an active nunnery at one point. Nuns lived in the place. They, still technically do, but they live there full time, practice there full time. And, my grandfather, when he first bought the land, said that at night that he would see nuns walking into the woods, not even 6 minutes from here, barely that. And you would see them, marching single file into the woods. And I started putting a lot of dots together when I started exploring these woods when I got a little bit older. And now that I've fully kind of gone through there, I've been finding these really, really odd things. Now, one of them is this big. It's on top of a hill. That it's now owned by Middlesex Community College, but it's this big hill. And on top of the hill, there's this big stone cylinder. I wish I had put up video. If I had known that these people weren't going to show up, I would have plugged all the videos in and been able to show you everything I'm talking about. But maybe I can get a couple pictures up of the newer thing. But there's this big stone circle and perfect archway door cut right into it. And it's, this stonework is amazing. And right across from this stone cylinder, which doesn't have a top, so you can look when you're inside of it. When you look up, there's no roof, so it just looks into the top of the sky. It looks straight up into the sky. Right across from that site is these 4 pyramids, and in the middle of that is like a pit that would maybe I'd say it's like 5. If you jumped in, it'd be like 5 feet down. It goes that far down, and it's filled with leaves and brush from over the years, and people partying up there, breaking bottles. So it's filled in a little bit, so it could go deeper. I don't know, but that site is very, very odd because I've looked it up, and there's 2 times a year when the moon directly is above it at 3 a.m. And I bet you can decide which moons those are. Yes, they have to do with the harvest moon and the witch's moon. So all in the October region, Halloween area. And so it's pretty blood curdling when I made that discovery. I think, and this was confirmed later, that they were in fact practicing witchcraft. But was it a witchcraft that was what we would think of as deadly, or was it more of just folk magic? I think folk magic, because this led us to Salem, and we filmed all the B-roll this Halloween. We couldn't really get many interviews on Halloween because it's Halloween in Salem, and they're super, super busy. So everyone's I don't want to say exploiting the people that are coming in, but I mean millions of people descend upon Salem in the September to late November region. So it took us that long, where we just this past weekend filmed the interviews with modern day witches, and the lovely ladies from Pentagram in Salem. So we got a bunch of interviews from a lot of people who know a lot about the history, a lot about the people who are accused of witchcraft, and a lot of even one of them was a ghost hunter. The third lady that we interviewed, she tied pirates and aliens into it. So it gets really wild. And the next place that we're going is Bridgewater Triangle. And most people will be familiar in ufology with the Bridgewater Triangle because of it's been in UFO documentaries going back years now. The Hockomock Swamp is right there, and there's been a really, really concentrated amount of activity that has gone on in that triangle, the Bridgewater Triangle. So I mean, we're gonna go there. The witches, the modern day witches, gave us candles to burn before we enter the triangle. That's how serious they take it. But in the interviews in Salem, they told us that there was, in fact, witchcraft going on, and that Salem was one of the original port towns. Salem is on the water. I have clear documented footage of it, right? There's a big lighthouse. It'll be in the movie. But it was a pirate town. Blackbeard, we found out, was trained by a man who ported out of Salem, Massachusetts. So, one of the most famous pirates of all time was trained basically out of Salem. So it's funny that it kind of came full circle on them, because at first the pirates, what they would do is they would go to the witches, more like folk magic, people dealing in folk magic. And in the late 16th century, this is just part of everyday life. They went to the witches and they have them bless their voyages. So, their voyages for gold, their voyages for spices, or various, whatever they were bringing in, or exporting, importing. So they would ask the witches in Salem to bless their voyages. They would go directly to them, bring them to the ships, have them bless the ship, do all that kind of stuff. And then this greed kind of took over the land. And what's funny is that Salem is actually on a ley line, and it's on the same ley line as, I believe, I don't quote me on this yet. I believe it is on the same ley lines that Stonehenge and the Giza and all them fall on. So or at least like a line can be drawn to it in a straight fashion. So it's pretty wild when you start thinking about it. And so that the Salem stuff, really what they instilled in me was that, yes, magic was in fact taking place, but it wasn't like they weren't witches around cauldrons. Now that may have been happening in other places, but for the most part, the people that were accused and hanged, they were not performing this, what you would call black magic, like things like Aleister Crowley, that they would be famous for. Not that kind of stuff. That stuff. That was more of an 80s, 70s, 80s thing, when the black magic and the satanic cults really came into their own. So is it possible that some of them were dabbling in it? Possibly. But it seems that the hysteria really grew from greed and wanting what other people had. And that meant, in colonial America, basically what made you a someone was land ownership. So the more land you had, the higher you were in society. So it really was a greed thing. And this just hysteria grew. And it really enveloped New England, and all that. So these three nuns were hanged in Billerica later on, for the same type of thing. And just a couple days ago, after I wrapped filming in Salem, I found some pictures. I found pictures of what I can only describe. Now, see, what you're seeing here is this is built into a hill. It is some sort of doorway. It reminds me of some sort of, doorway. And if you look at the top, it's really hard to see in this picture, but there are these crystal things like built into it. And when you're viewing this from the back, it looks like a pyramid. When you're up close to it, it doesn't. But now you'll see it better in this picture. But all around, now if I could draw a finger with my line, a line with my finger, right along, like as if put a door there in your mind, right along the rim. Look for those rocks that stand out in the picture. They're all like these glassy rocks, and it reminds me of either a doorway or a portal or something. And this is in the same area that the stone circle is in, and the 4 pyramids at the sacrificial pit are in. And this is, I mean, that white rock that is at the bottom of the picture, that is about 6 feet, 5.5 feet up. So you have to climb up this thing to get up to that. And then, I mean, it goes deeper in. And like I said, as you can see, it gets higher and higher as you climb. So, I mean, it looks like a doorway, and I'm coming across these things left and right. We also came across what you could only say is a stone pillar. It kind of almost represents the stone pillar circle thing, that I found up on top of the hill. Maybe next Thursday I'll bring some more videos, because I got ditched from my co-host. My co-host ditched me tonight, and the guest ditched me. So if I had more time, I would love to show you guys some of these videos, but they'll be in the film, of course. But it's just wild because I live in Billerica and near Boston, and of course, you guys know that Boston and New England and Plymouth and we are rich in history. It's safe to say, right? I mean, no matter what lens you look at it through, we are rich in history here in New England, especially in Massachusetts. This is where the first settlers came. This area. So not only is it rich in Native American lore in what came before us, the white man, but the lore that came after us. So it's really been interesting to come across all these things, and I can't wait to explore more and to be able to properly show it. We have interviews. We're looking for more people to tell their stories in the area of Bridgewater. So if you're listening by chance and you're from the area, if you've seen something and you want to come on camera, I'd really love to talk to you. Other than that, guys, I mean, the UFO world's been kind of silent right now. A lot's been going on behind the scenes with things like conferences. I knew some of the Sol videos came out. So why don't we check out some of the Sol Video Foundation? Sol, wow, I'm just like mixing things up tonight, huh? So why don't we take a look at some of the Sol Foundation videos together now that I'm just here alone doing the show. Like I said, I was supposed to have a co-host tonight, and that backfired. And you guys aren't keeping me company in the chat. So no, I get it. I get it. I'm not interesting on my own. Just kidding. But with the supplement that I've been taking, a lot more has been coming back with my my UFO sighting from when I was younger. Different aspects of it, at least, that I didn't, not that I didn't remember, but it was just that I didn't, oh my God, I just had the wildest deja vu. Oh my God, that's really weird. I just had like the most wild, vivid deja vu that I was here alone and like had to riff the whole thing on my own, like down to the T. No, I'm not exciting, not by myself. And you know what, the Anjali part, I was doing as not a favor. I wasn't doing it as a favor. I wouldn't say that, but I definitely took her on as more of a, ode. And thank you. Your I saw Parsi X said, "Good job on getting your podcast going. Herrera was a banger." It is, and the podcast has been going for a while now. I mean, I used to do Hollywood, a lot of Hollywood stuff, a lot of interviews with actors and stuff that wasn't even for my own platform. It was for showcases. So a lot of my interviews are not even owned by me. So when I came over about a year and a half ago to the UFO thing, I kept the same YouTube. And that's why I think we've had a lot more trouble gaining traction on YouTube. But whereas we have not on the podcast side of things, because on the audio side, I mean, the Herrera interview is sitting at, I think, like 23,000, and we're only a couple days in. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to bring up some of the videos from the Sol Foundation. Also, my battery's low. So take a pause for a minute. We'll be right back after, I don't know. Just give me 1 second. All right, all plugged in. Forgot to plug it in. Maybe it's because I'm just gonna keep bashing her because I'm gonna rub this in her face tomorrow. I'm just gonna blame everything on Teresa tonight. So It's Teresa's fault, guys. It's Teresa's fault. I don't know what to tell you. By the way, Teresa started an OnlyFans, and she asked me beforehand if she, I know she already announced it, but it's not the content that you think. I mean, it's gonna lean that way, but it's not what you think it's gonna be. But it is going to be like this theme, like aliens and that kind of stuff. It's just gonna be I don't know, it's have her own little twist on it. I said I'm happy to promote it for you if you want. Happy to say something, like to I mean, you can't hate the player. You gotta hate like you gotta hate the system, and the system allows for that kind of content to be exploited. So who am I to judge, right? If you can make money doing it, do it, girl. And that's to anybody out there. Anybody out there. I've been getting a little upset lately, especially with this Michael Herrera interview, because some of the comments that people leave are super negative. And I tweeted about it today too. So before you get to some of these Saul Foundation videos, I do want to kind of go on a little bit of a rant. I definitely have a touch of ADHD. Um, and definitely OCD. When I interview guests that aren't in the room with me, like people don't understand that internet speeds, they do factor in. So some of the times when you think I'm speaking over somebody, that's not what's happening. It's that their internet drops, my internet drops, and you kind of fumble over each other. That's why virtual interviews suck. And I don't want to do them at all. I want to go back to doing in-person interviews. I used to do that, and nobody ever critiqued me about interrupting ever until I came to the UFO community, started doing these virtual interviews. So it's something that really gets me upset because I know that it can be my fault. At times I do. I tend to I try to, or not. Maybe subliminally, I can dominate a conversation, but I'm a one man army. I put all the shows together. I reach out to all the guests. I edit everything. I make everything, thumbnails, descriptions. I my lovely girlfriend Jessica's helped a lot with the filming side of things. But I organize for the most part all of this, and to hear things like, well, you're stop cutting the guest off and asking questions. It's like, no, I'm going to do the interview the way I want to. Sometimes I need to be able to hear things a second time or go back to something that maybe I misheard. That's just me, it's not intended to be disrespectful to the guest. It's more the internet, like I said, lags, especially the StreamYard's working on a way to fix that so that it will stay current. But there's always going to be that latency error. And delay. Especially when you're live doing it. So when you're pre-recording it, it's a little bit different. But with the Herrera interview, it just got a plethora of people with the disrespectful comments. And I don't really pay attention to it. I really let it fall off. But I figured I'd address it and let you know that there is a reason for it. I know that sometimes I could cut people off here. I try not to. I'm trying to do a bit better of a job of it, and to let the guests, get their full thoughts spoken before bringing up anything new or moving on or ask them to reiterate. So, I take constructive criticism very seriously, but hurtful comments, I don't. They fall away like the rainwater. So, I mean, if that's your intention, is to just sit there with your, from your armchair, not put yourself out there to be judged, but to judge others so harshly, then fuck yourself, right? Yourself. Go yourself. That's my answer. I'm gonna do what I do best, and that is to get guests that are fun, Our list is really exciting. Coming up this week is Richard Doty, which I've already filmed and is ready to go. Members can watch it right now. The raw unedited version is up for members only right now. And that was an amazing episode. I truly had a fun time with that. So if you want to become a member, you can hit join below. But what I wanted to do was take a look at some of these Saul videos, because they were really the only thing that I think of interest that came out in the last week or so that really stuck out to me. And again, I didn't want to be an asshole or you know say that kind of stuff or even go that direction earlier, but it is. Remember that, it's easy to sit there and to judge, but to spend all the money that I have, that content creators have, and then to put yourself out there and to do that, it takes a lot more courage than you think. So, just be careful with what you say to people online, because you never know what kind of chord you're going to strike or what kind of day that person's having. And just imagine if what you're saying as one of those people, imagine if someone was saying that to you. And that's what I think a lot of people in the UFO community have a hard time doing, is they have a hard time stepping back and looking at it from a outside perspective. And I wish more people in the UFO community could do that, because as Michael Herrera said in that interview, it's not going to be one person. It's not going to be Dr. Greer. It's not going to be King and Lord and Savior Lou Elizondo. It's not going to be Danny Sheehan. It's not going to be Gary Nolan. It's not going to be any one of them that runs the ball to the end zone for disclosure. It's going to be all of us, and all of us together. And that was one of my favorite things that he said that night. It really, like, if you have to, if there's any evidence that UFOs and all that exist, just look at the factionalism that's been created in ufology, and tell me there's nothing there, because the Anunnaki were said, or if you want to look at it through the Bible lens, when they built the Tower of Babel, right, when men got too close to the gods, they struck them down, they made them speak different languages, and they spread them out, right? That's what we've been factionalized since the beginning. It's how they keep us dumb. It's how they keep us separated. It's how they keep us infighting instead of focused on what we should be focusing on. And we're letting everybody in the political realm, we're letting everybody who's on top of us, that 1% that everyone speaks of, we're letting them do the things that they do by being factionalized. Like, I've never been, and you talk to some of the older people in your life, every single person watching this now, in the future, or in the past, if you're some sort of time traveler, amen, please come with me. All right, doesn't look like we have any time travelers watching, because no one showed up. No one showed up. So, no, still no one. But they keep us factionalized, guys, and it's an easy way. So if you look at it through that lens, the religious lens, look at it that way. They talk about it in the Bible, right? They talk about it in almost every culture, that they keep us, we're too strong as one, right? We are too strong when we think as one collective. That's why there's power in people. There's also power in individuality, of course. But when they strip away your individuality, that's when we have a problem, right? When people are forced. So there's a difference between those two different things. And I think people, they're like, I need to be an individual. Well, no, yes, that's true. But you also need to be able to think for yourself. And when you stop thinking for yourself and you allow other people to fill your brain with their information and their perspective, then you're just another echo chamber for them, right? So think for yourself. And once more people do that, that's when they'll be able to step away, step back, take a look at from the backside, step away and go, oh, now I see the whole picture. So let's go take a look at these goddamn YouTube videos that I keep saying we're going to watch. What should we start off with? Should we start off with Hal Putoff? I really like Hal Putoff, but I think maybe we start off with, all right, one that's not so long. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? I like Gary Nolan, and I think I want to watch Gary Nolan. I don't know, guys. Hal Putoff, Chris Mellon, Jacques Vallée, Kevin Knuth, Gary Nolan. What do you guys want to do? I don't know. I'm gonna do Hal Putoff. I made the executive order. See, that's what presidents can do. I'm not a president, but you know what I mean. Let me share my screen though, so you guys can watch. Where is it? Oh, there's so many more than I thought there was. Holy shoot. Oh, okay. So there's Gary Nolan, Avi Loeb. Oh, oh no, we're watching David Grush. I didn't even see. So David Grush gave one. That's what we're gonna watch. Dope. I didn't know Grush gave. I haven't watched any of these videos, by the way. Credit to the Soul Foundation, of course, and Gary Nolan. You guys are doing great things. I wish I could have been there. Maybe next year I'll get the invite.
I assume that's a yes. Okay. So I'm going to have a few minutes of remarks, and then there'll be certainly time for question and answer after my couple minutes. I know I'm between you and I assume a wonderful dinner, so I understand I'm the last guy between you and that. So I will try to keep it brief and then open it up for questions. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me today here at the first annual Soul Foundation Conference. I'm hoping that you took a lot away from these last 2 days. And we're here to discuss a matter of great significance, government transparency regarding unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAP. The veil of secrecy surrounding this subject has captured our collective curiosity far too long, and it's time for profound change. In a world where information is power, the transparency of our government and its allies, holds the key to unlocking these truths that lie beyond our current public understanding. Imagine a future where we no longer need to speculate about our place in the cosmos, where the shadows of uncertainty are dispelled by the light of disclosure. The impact of revealing information on UAP crash retrievals and associated activities would be nothing short of revolutionary, and I assume all of us can agree to that point. First and foremost, embracing transparency on UAP matters is an affirmation to our commitment to truth and openness. It's a declaration that we, as a society, are ready to confront the unknown and unravel the mysteries that have perplexed us for decades. This willingness to confront the enigma not only builds trust between the government and its citizens, but also sets a precedent for a new era of accountability. The release of information on non-human intelligences has the potential to unite humanity in a shared quest for understanding, regardless of the ontological shock. No longer bound by the limitations of national borders, we would embark on a collective journey of discovery, transcending political distances or differences, and fostering a sense of global unity. The realization that we are not alone in this vast universe could serve as a powerful catalyst for international cooperation, reminding us of our shared destiny as inhabitants and stewards of the earth. Moreover, imagine the technological advancements that could stem from broad study. The integration of this kind of technology into our scientific knowledge could propel us to the future with unprecedented innovation, shaping industries, improving our quality of life. It's not just about knowing, it's about the potential to revolutionize our understanding of physics, biology, and chemistry, and other foundational sciences. Releasing this information in a controlled, planned manner, such as Carl Nell has discussed during the conference, as with the Schumer Amendment,
That's one I hope they have.
has profound implications on our philosophical and spiritual perspectives. The acknowledgement of otherworldly intelligences challenges our very concept of existence, encouraging us to reconsider our place in the grand tapestry of the universe. It's an important and profound introspection and a catalyst for a new era of spiritual awakening. In conclusion, this movement ignited in December 2017 with Leslie and Ralph's famous article in the New York Times is not merely a matter of government transparency. It's a paradigm shift that holds the power to reshape our world. By embracing the unknown, we open ourselves to a future where truth, unity, and technological advancements and a deeper understanding of our existence converge. Let us advocate for transparency, not for ourselves, but for the generations to come as we embark on a journey toward a more enlightened and interconnected world. Thank you.
Who dares to ask the first question? Okay, well, let's line up. Hi, Dave. I was wondering if you could comment on how far you think the United States or indeed other countries have got with the reverse engineering program, and have we got to fly these machines? Are they flyable?
Ooh.
I'm getting a little bit of double feedback. Do I need to mute my mic to hear it clearly?
Should I ask the question again, Dave?
I need to mute my mic, let me know. I was just getting like a reverb.
Let me know if you had. Should I ask it again, Dave?
Oh, that sounds better. Okay.
Okay. I was wondering, Dave, if you could comment on how far the United States has got, or indeed other countries, in the reverse engineering program, and whether we've managed to fly these machines, and are they flyable?
What the?
Yeah, a lot of that I can't answer public.
All right, I don't know what those noises are, so I'm gonna not. We're gonna go to a different video from them. So let me just stop this because it's not what I thought it. That one was a little bit. I want to see the in-person ones. So who else was in person? Oh God, it's ringing in my ear. Let's see which one of these ones were in person, because that one is a little hokey. Let's just go to videos here. I do want to watch the Hal Puthoff one. I guess we'll watch the Hal Puthoff one. I'm gonna get it popped up here. 1 second. Present, share. All right. So yeah, we'll watch this one and then we'll probably wrap it up, guys. I wasn't expecting to be alone tonight, so you know, I don't really, like I said, not too much news to talk
Since
about.
we're here to address the issue from the standpoint of government involvement, I'd like to start with a kind of a short rundown of where our government has been along the way, with some elements that a lot of people
Now, for anyone who doesn't know,
may not be aware of. Of course, we all know that we had back in the 60s.
So just before this, for anyone who doesn't know, Dr. Hal Puthoff was speaking. He worked with teams like NIDS, so the National Institute of Discovery Science, which is run by, you know, he runs in that circle. So like with the Kit Greens, and he was also involved with To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences with Tom DeLonge. So, you know, he's been in the field, and even I believe he's also a remote viewer, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he is. Yeah, so I believe he does the remote viewing, and so he's been really into this for his entire career.
And so on, Project Sign and Grudge and Blue Book. And then in 1969, the Blue Book was shut down based on recommendations from Condon and so on. So at that point, if you called the Air Force office and said, well, what's happening in UFOs and so on, they'd say, oh, no, we gave all that stuff up back in 1969. The truth of the matter is that the Bollinger memo that actually shut down Blue Book had underlying in fine print, but any UFO issues that might affect national security, we will continue to follow through on. And so it didn't really die, it just went out of sight. Now, along the way, something that came across my path in this was that I was contacted by a CEO of a think tank in Washington, D.C. This is back a couple of decades ago. He says, I want you to come and participate in a conference here in Washington. I said, well, frankly, I'm too busy. What's it about? He says, I can't tell you what it's about, but if you come and you participate, you will consider it later to be one of the most important conferences you ever went to. Well, since I had respect for him and with his background and many things he's done, I did finally decide to come to this conference. And when I arrived, there were about, I don't know, 15, 20 people. I recognized some of them from the military, from CIA, DIA, some businessmen, and so on. So I thought, well, this is quite an interesting group of people. And so to start the conference off, he said, this conference is about disclosing something to the American public. As a startup position, let's assume that there have been crash retrievals by Russia, China, and the United States. And the question is, can we bring this out to the public? And so I think I, and most of the people I knew, when you talked to them later, said, oh, this is really cool. I mean, this could really go someplace. So he said, okay, the strategy we're going to use is we're going to make a list of all the areas that you think would be affected by this. And then on each one, you're going to have to grade them on a scale from +9 to -9 as to the level of impact and whether it's positive or negative. Okay, So we started out by making lists. So we started out with the obvious things. Well, I mean, the stock market, maybe religions, well, certainly politics would be affected. So we made a long list. I mean, it was really a long list. And the time we got down to the bottom of the list, we were really in the weeds. Like, okay, if corporation A has access to retrieve materials that corporation B doesn't, then when this comes out, corporation B is going to sue corporation A, they're going to sue the government. This is really going to be a tough thing to kind of handle. Okay. So anyway, we broke up into groups, each taking a certain number of the things that were in our list. Okay. And in my group, we added up the numbers, +9 to -9. And we ended up in the negative category, even though we were kind of positively disposed to the idea. So I thought, well, maybe that just has to do with the particular list that we got. So then I talked to other people that were on other lists and said, you know, we came to a negative number also. Well, make a long story short, it turned out that everybody going through these lists, there's a very sophisticated situation with complex computers and big screens and all that kind of stuff. It finally came down to the fact that the problem was there's so many areas to handle, and there was no way to handle them all at the same time. And so the final result was, therefore, the leader said, we're going to recommend that we don't go forward with this. And so those of us who were participating in this were pretty disappointed, thinking, we started thinking that, this would be a good thing to do.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So anyway, let's go forward up to, let's say,
Ross Coulthart talks about that in
2008.
A lot of the interviews.
Now you suddenly have, as Leslie proclaimed so well in her December 2017 article in the New York Times, Senators Reid,
Daniel Inouye,
Senators Reid,
Daniel Inouye,
Stevens,
yeah,
decided that there should be a new study started.
Now, guys, if you remember, Daniel Inouye is connected to the Michael Herrera story in a sense, because Daniel Inouye is the one who made that famous speech about the shadowy government that has its own navy, its own army, its own fundraising mechanism, operates above the law, without oversight from Congress or the president. He's the guy who made that speech. So Harry Reid went to him and Stevens, and they put aside. That's when they agreed to put aside the secret, the $20 million to create the program OSAP.
From scratch with new people involved to investigate the area. So I would like to remind you that those 3 senators are all part of the Gang of 8, which means they probably had some background as to why this was a good idea. And so they told the Defense Intelligence Agency to start a program. Now this was the OSAP program, which you're probably all familiar with.
Exactly.
Advanced Aerospace Weapons Systems Application Program, which eventually morphed into ATIP, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. And the requirements of the DIA were 2. One, the most obvious one.
Now, I also want to make a comment on that, because he said it morphed into ATIP. And a lot of people have criticized Lou Elizondo, because Lou Elizondo always says that he was the head of ATIP. ATIP is basically what the program turned into when it ran out of money. And also it was a way that it was basically a declassified nickname for the program, so that they could basically hide in plain sight. And Lou Elizondo took over as from what George Knapp says, and other people say from that program. The money really had ran out by then, and it was more of a hobby, not hobbyist thing, but it was a role that they took on, that voluntarily. It wasn't that they were getting paid extra to do it. Put it that way. The funding had already been delivered to OSAP, which went to Bigelow Aerospace, and the study.
Of course, is where are these things coming from? What's their intent? What do we have to deal with here? It turns out that was not a particular interest. It was really item number 2. And that is, since we know other countries are researching this, getting access to materials and so on, what happens if they develop advanced technologies, adversarial competitors that leaped ahead of us? That's what they were most worried about. So we had to take on that as.
That seems to be the case for every single goddamn government program. Yeah, I don't know if anyone watched Einstein and the Bomb on Netflix, but Einstein says now that he thought the German atomic program was way ahead of where it was, and he was so scared about that's why he wrote the letter to Truman, and that's really what sped up the atomic program. It seems that the United States always exaggerates their competition's level of insight into these various things, and that's how they shovel money into it. Is they get the Congress people, or the people that are the money givers, the donors, if you will. It's all about scaring them with what the adversary is doing. Oh, they've got a program that's much better than ours. It's up and running. It's already this far ahead of ours. It seems like that's always the case when they're talking about these special access programs. And like the stuff that Dr. Delirium did to people in the army, enlisted individuals. They literally tested LSD on them, and then a drug called delirium. They did that to our own enlisted members at Edgeworth. And that's a bioweapons lab. That's how they also said that same thing to the government. They said, Russia's bioweapon, they're so far advanced, and that was not even close to reality. But it seems that the same thing happens in the UFO field.
As our challenge to figure out, what could it be? Now,
not that I'm complaining
the list of
about
things
the
they wanted
UFO
us to
advancement at all.
investigate.
I think this is good,
And I
but
want
the
you to
other
think
shit
about
is
the fact
ridiculous.
that they must have known something to make a list like this. They were interested in 12 potential threat areas with regard to UAP: lift, propulsion, control, power generation, space-time translation, materials, configuration structure, signature reduction, human effects, human interface, armament, and peripheral support issues. Well, that's a pretty intelligent list. So chances are you've got some knowledge that's driving this list. So our ingoing assumption was, okay, maybe what we had heard way back in 2004 was true, and that is countries do have access to crash-free materials. Okay, so, well, let's just go get their materials and get them into the scientific community. Part of my job was to try to negotiate that, and the answer was, this is so compartmentalized, it just isn't going to happen. When I say compartmentalized, I mean people had stuff in their basements that they would love to have brought up to their scientists and engineers on the top floor, but it was so compartmentalized and so secure, they couldn't do that. So that turned out to be a non-starter. Said, okay, well, let's try plan B. Pass all the materials to us. We'll set up a kind of a buffer organization. And then we'll come in the front door for your people to work on it. And we won't reveal where this stuff came from. So that'll give you, what you need to separate it. Well, that got shot down big time. So we went to plan C. Plan C was, okay, we can't do this the obvious straightforward way, all this technical stuff. So how about this? Let's go to all the experts in the world that we wish we could have passed this information on to, and tell them that we're just doing a survey for Bigelow Aerospace. We'd like to know where your field will be in the year 2050. Unclassified. You go to people in other countries. And so the kinds of programs that they set up for us, I'll just read a few of them. There were 38 altogether, actually, just to give you an idea of how technical we consider this program to be. Aneutronic fusion propulsion, superconductors and gravity research, positron aerospace propulsion, warp drive dark energy extra dimensions, advanced nuclear propulsion, brain-machine interfaces, IEC fusion as a compact energy source, quantum vacuum energy extraction, space-time metric engineering, traversable wormholes, stargates, advanced aerospace materials, metallic glasses for aerospace use, MEMS-based biosensors, and on and on and on. So we got 38 of those. None of the individuals that we approached had any idea that anything to do with trying to figure out anything
convinced
about
that thing's a portal.
And so we told them you could even publish them in the open literature, and many of them did. When I gathered them all up, we posted them on what's called the JWICS website for the Pentagon as DIRDS, D-I-R-D-S, Defense Intelligence Reference Documents. And usually when you publish technical papers like that, this is just for contractors in the intelligence community.
And we all
they go up
knew
there
this
and
from things like this.
For about,
like communication with extraterrestrial
we were told
intelligence.
that this series
That's where these things came from.
was the most high quality, long lasting set they'd ever put up. They just couldn't take them down because everybody was really into.
If anyone wants to
see these.
look
So
that up, by the
eventually,
way,
as time goes forward and people have FOIAs, at this point, all of the
right there.
these papers have basically
Screenshot that.
made available, and
you can get the whole
and of course, I
document.
thought all these people were going to trounce all over me and say, "Oh my God, you didn't tell me to say anything to do with ET or UFOs or whatever." But the quality papers we got, I think, are probably almost as good as if we had been able to share materials and so on. So anyway, that's where we have come up to at the present time. And of course now, after her article appeared and all the interest came up, and as you know, we have people like Dave Rush coming forward and saying straight out, we've got materials, craft, and bodies. He's not the only one. As it turns out, the person who ran the program at DIA for us
Jim
was
Lakatsky.
Jim Lakatsky, if you're familiar with that name.
He recently on Weaponized said the same exact thing. said that we do have craft, and he said it in a book as well.
And they just published a book.
Here, we're going to talk about it.
Who ran the program from DIA, Colm Kelleher, who was
Colm Kelleher and George Knapp.
at Bigelow Advanced Aerospace Studies, who was the prime contractor, and George Knapp.
Yep.
Called Inside the U.S. Government Covert UFO Programs Initial Revelations. And one of the key phrases in there that certainly caught my attention when I saw it was that Jim Lukatsky, who is also a very high intelligence community,
very high,
responsible individual,
super patriotic,
reveals in the book that we have
like
craft
won't cross a line,
origin, and we've gotten inside it. So it isn't just Dave Rush as a high-level intelligence person bringing this out to the world. We now have the person who ran this program, which is a very significant program.
And we also have people like Michael Herrera coming forward. Like, people are missing these things. Disclosure is already happened, guys. Like, what more do we need? I beg, you know, I really, I need to know, what more do we need from these different whistleblowers, these different people in government? What more is needed to shine a light that to the general public that this is all real. The UFO phenomenon is real, and it's out there, and it's happening right now as we speak. Someone's probably having a sighting or reporting something strange. We'll continue watching these Saul Foundation videos. Again, I wasn't expecting to be alone tonight, guys, so I don't have too much that I can fall back on for topics. I hate to leave you this early, but don't worry. This Sunday, my interview with Richard Doty will be debuting across all platforms, including, but not limited to, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Rumble, YouTube, and pretty much any other major podcast platform that you can think of. But for video, it'll be out in clip version across TikTok and Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. But the whole thing will be on YouTube and Rumble to watch. It's a really great interview. I think it follows up the Michael Herrera interview really, really well, just in terms of how it's placed. And funny enough, they're doing a TV show together for Gaia. So I beat them to the punch a little bit in that sense. But I wonder if I have that in here as the soundbite. Thank you. Thank you. You guys are too kind. Jesus Christ. What are we doing here? But yeah, if you can, the podcast is completely separate on Apple, Spotify, and all those platforms. If you can, that it's all just the interviews. If you can, leave a written review. It helps so much, or a star rating. It really does go. It plays a big factor into getting the show to wider audiences. Also, it gets us to be able to do more fun things, like making these movies. It gives me the time and the affordability to do it. So things are going great right now. So if we continue on this trajectory, I have no doubt that this is going to be a really great platform in the next coming couple years. So with all that being said, if you do want to help support the show, you can kick. Wow, I can't speak. You can click join below on YouTube, and you pretty much choose what you pay. Everyone gets the same thing: early access, bonus material. I'm putting up vlogs daily, behind the scenes footage of the movie will be coming out across that, the members only feed. Early content like the Richard Doty interview is already up, and pretty much every podcast goes up early there for you guys, ad free as well. And then after 12 months consecutive of being a member, you get a free Total Disclosure t-shirt. So guys, thank you so much for being here. We shall see you next time.